Good morning, everybody. Can you hear me okay? Microphone? Okay. It's a pleasure to be back. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you to Marcy for the invitation. I was told last night that they don't remember what I talked about last year, but it was really, really bad. And that's usually what the talk that we give. It's a lot of politics, a lot of problems. Citrus Mutual is really the place where the problems go, like Citrus Research Board. And we just roll up our sleeves and work on it the best we can. But last year, if you recall, I talked a little bit about defining success, opportunities for success. And what I saw coming from an outsider into the industry, what I saw were some major challenges, and how as an organization at CCM, we are working to improve, to address those challenges. But the other big challenge that I noted at the last meeting last year was the industry did a lot of things in silos, from an industry organization standpoint, and it's not efficient. It's not efficient whatsoever. And it's something that we've dedicated our staff to try and fix within the industry, working across those silos, using expertise in multiple areas, because obviously, like Justin said, we don't know it all. We don't have all of the answers to every question, but you get people in a room with different expertise, you can usually figure out the best path forward. And I think we've done a really good job of that in the last year, working very collaboratively with the Citrus Research Board. And I want to report on some of those things. So you see there's actual progress happening. Even though this is political season, there's all kinds of politics, and somebody's really, really bad and somebody's really, really good. And there's a lot of fear and anxiety around elections. There's a lot of that stuff going on, but there's also things, if you take away the noise and focus on some real key items and work in a bipartisan nature, you can actually get a whole lot of things done if you just keep your head down and start working. So we've been doing that as a team. We've been doing that in collaboration with the Citrus Research Board, and we're really proud of it. But I want to just sort of highlight 5 things that we've been working on. The one is neonicotinoids. You've heard about this before. I'm probably a little bit of a broken record. When I came into the industry, there was a chlorpyrifos was being canceled. Everybody was afraid neonics was going to be next. Very important tool for the citrus industry in the fight against ACP and HLB, and everybody thought that was next and was going to be canceled. Sure enough, there's a regulatory process to address it with honeybees, industry, agro-industry talking, okay, communication strategy, political strategy, economics, all of these things that, frankly, in the past have been unsuccessful. That's not the climate in Sacramento anymore to get anything done. It used to be, but it's not anymore. Conversation with Marcy, worked on, there's a lot of research when it comes to neonics and honeybees. We've been proactive for a long time. We hired, with the help of the Citrus Research Board, a technical scientific firm to review the literature and work with the staff at the Department of Pesticide Regulation to help them understand the research, because they just frankly didn't know. Right? We made a lot of progress within that regulation. We didn't get everything we want. It's in the final 15-day period right now. Comment period ends on Friday. It might look like you're probably losing a rate when it comes to neonicotinoids. You are not. Neonics will be available, imidacloprid for citrus, from a regulatory standpoint in the future, because we work proactively with the Department of Pesticide Regulation. There's a quarantine pest exemption in there, which means none of the regulations, none of the mitigations apply to the citrus use of neonicotinoids. So we have saved that product. That product is through the good work working with Citrus Research Board. Secondarily, as you probably know, this governor is pesticides are a high priority for addressing, and whether it's neonics or 1,3-D, there's a sustainable pest management program, there's a notification program that's moving forward. It is a top button item. Well, there's legislation being run this year that would have banned the use of imidacloprid in residential areas. They made some changes at our request and the administration's request. The governor vetoed that bill. Did not anticipate that. He vetoed it. He did it in the message that there's a regulatory process in place. was similar to the things that we put in our letter. So the regulatory process led into the ability for the governor to stand behind that solid regulatory process and veto the bill. So 2 successes right there that started with the partnership with CRD. The Farm Bill, we get the citrus industry nationwide gets $25 million a year. It's over a 5-year life of the Farm Bill. I think we're in year 4 now of that. And there's a citrus disease subcommittee that meets. We advocate for the money, working with our collaboratively with our partners in Texas and Florida. But we're not the scientists. We don't know what's needed. Citrus Research Board does. They've got a group of people dedicated that sit on that group, and there's a whole lot more collaboration happening within that committee now. More research, not necessarily this year, but we're really working together a whole lot better than we have been. More research will start to come for California's priorities moving forward. You can count on that. And if it doesn't, we will be working together to identify changes in that, the next Farm Bill, so that it works for California, so we can not only find the cure for Florida, which we need, but we also find solutions that work here in California as well. We've also got the HLB MAC, a long-being multi-agency coordination. There's $8.5 million a year annually that comes to the entire citrus industry. Florida developed what's called a craft program. Originally, I think it was 3 years ago, there was a lack of quality projects that met the needs of citrus growers. And so we're trying to figure out how not to spend the money or to divert it to somewhere else. Florida led the way in developing a craft program, which in my mind, whether you like their program or not, it's Florida getting together and saying, this is our priorities, and this is how we want to spend the money to help Florida growers. We've followed their lead, Texas followed the lead, and now working with Marcy and the team. Obviously, we're not the research people, but we have a California craft program, and we're working to divert dollars that come directly to the Citrus Research Board and then get out to growers to identify solutions to address HLB and ECP. So positive working relationship on that program as well. The next thing is another thing that happened this year. You probably didn't hear a whole lot of press about it, but there's an issue with enforcement of the grapefruit maturity standards. There's probably not a whole lot of grapefruit growers here, but there are grapefruit growers in California. Texas was getting hit really hard with Mexican imports coming in. Basically, in the discussions with USMCA, USDA decided that there was enforcement issues with the grapefruit juice maturity standard and said it's not universally being enforced across the entire United States. And so if they're not applying the same rules to domestic growers, they can't apply it to foreign growers who are bringing fruit in. Didn't notify the industry at all, just stopped doing the enforcement, seeing the flood of imports coming in. Found out about it by happenstance, worked with USDA to address it. Big political issue, a whole lot of balance happening between Mexico and the United States with the implementation of that agreement. The odds were stacked against us, but the issue, where the problem was that California does not have a juice maturity standard and it's not enforced for grapefruit. We've never done the testing, never looked at it, don't even know what standard. In Florida, it's roughly a 49% weight by volume juice standard. We didn't even know if we could meet that. Is it 43? Is it 47? And so we put forward the process with the support of the Citrus Research Board of Directors and said, okay, we're going to bring on Mary Lou Orpea, we're going to do a study, we're going to work with growers and packing houses and say, okay, what is the juice maturity standard? In that process, by working proactively with USDA and saying, give us the time to work through this to understand our industry before we put a regulation or enforcement. They ended up enforcing the standards this year, so a whole lot less Mexican grapefruit is not coming to the United States, directly impacting Texas, indirectly impacting California, and that is, thank you, that is the cooperation and commitment of working together with Citrus Research Board. We could not have done that alone. And the last thing I'm going to talk about is a pretty big one. We're not all the way there yet. We just took our board back to DC. I think we were at the 20-yard line to give a football analogy, and then now we're at the 5-yard line. And that is the making USDA ARS's National Citrus Program, the breeding program, a true national citrus program. This is the idea that came from Citrus Research Board and said, we need to have a facility in Parlier that does breeding just like they do in Florida. Again, it's a national citrus program, but California is the largest citrus producing state in the country. We provide over 50% and over 90% of the fresh citrus domestically, but yet we have our great facility with the UC system, but USDA ARS was not investing in varieties out in California and under our soil conditions for the needs of the growers here in the room. Marcy came, we need a facility, we need you guys to get it, working with Alyssa Halpy on her team, who runs our federal affairs, connecting the right congressional representatives. Congressman David Valadeo, who sits on appropriation, very, very helpful. The Parlier station, I believe, is in his district right now. Congressman Jim Costa, who's on the D side of things, his new district will cover the Parlier, working together with both of them in a bipartisan fashion. Also at the Senate level, Senator Alice Padilla really championing it on the Senate side, working with Senator Dianne Feinstein's office to get the language in there on developing a citrus breeding facility in Parlier. We're almost there. They punted on the next budget. It's supposed to be, it needs to be finalized by December 14th. We are very optimistic, and our board members were there talking with the staff on both sides. They all agree there's no controversy here. You've got a Democratic leader, you've got a Republican leader. It makes sense. We've worked with USDA on it. There's a good plan for it. There's a lot of support. They think it will be done. And so that'll be a major victory. Hopefully we get it across the finish line. We don't have to come back next year, but a major success because of the cooperation from the research side of it to the advocacy side. And those are the kind of things that I think I'm optimistic about. You know, we're not hitting home runs anymore. It's very difficult. I was telling some people we didn't go solve the immigration deal. We didn't bring all the water back to California. We didn't solve the trade program, but we made substantial difference by focusing in on the details where we can actually get things done. And that works a whole lot better with a good partnership with your team, the Citrus Research Board. I just want to give my appreciation to give an opportunity to be up here and tell you a little bit about the work that we're doing together. Appreciate all of your support of both of our organizations. And I don't know what's next. Nobody does. There's a lot of issues in front of us, but I can tell you we're going to roll up our sleeves, tackle it, work together, and we're going to make the best of any situation that comes before us. So thank you all very much. Enjoy. Have a great program today.